Many TV shows have that one defining episode. Many movies have that one defining line. And many football games have that one defining play. Naturally, the Super Bowl is no exception. And with 59 of them now in the books, we're going to take a look at each Super Bowl's most defining play, for better or for worse. There's no formula for determining this, it is strictly a subjective opinion. But the impact of the play on the game, its historical context, and its memorability are among the considerations. We're not ranking these, we're just going to go in order from Super Bowl 1 through Super Bowl 59. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section about any disagreements you may have. Let's get started. Super Bowl 1, formerly known as the NFL AFL Championship game, was played between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Packers coming out on top 35-10. There are a few candidates here: Curtis McClinton's touchdown for the Chiefs to get them on the board, Jim Taylor scoring a touchdown on the famed Packers sweep, and Fred Williamson, known as the Hammer, getting himself knocked out of the game. But our choice is going to the first touchdown ever scored in the Super Bowl, and it was done by hungover backup wide receiver Max McGee, reaching behind him with one hand to make the catch and streaking his way into the end zone. No matter what ever happens again in any Super Bowl, this will always be the first touchdown. The Packers returned for Super Bowl II, this time against the Oakland Raiders, but the result was essentially the same, a dominant 33-14 victory. Ray Nitschke putting the big hit on Hewart Dixon, and Boyd Dowler's 62-yard touchdown run will get consideration here. But the most memorable play from this game was Herb Adderley jumping in front of a pass and running it back for the Super Bowl's first ever pick six. Super Bowl III was much more memorable for what took place off the field before the game, but the game itself did take place, with the New York Jets pulling off the shocking upset over the Baltimore Colts by a score of 16-7. Tom Maddie's 58-yard run in this game stood as the Super Bowl record for a long time, for longest run. Jimmy Orr was left wide open on a pass that instead turned into an interception, and Matt Snell's opening touchdown were all memorable moments. But that Snell touchdown happened because of our pick, an interception here by Randy Beverly in the end zone while the game was still scoreless. To this point, the Colts had threatened but not scored any points, and the Jets were able to take over from here to pull off that upset. Super Bowl IV was the last Super Bowl to be played between the AFL and the NFL, with the merger between the two leagues pending in the offseason. The Kansas City Chiefs, for the second straight year, pulled off an upset in the Super Bowl, beating the Minnesota Vikings 23-7. Charlie West somewhat famously had a kickoff return fumble in this game. The Chiefs pulled off a couple of interceptions during the fourth quarter, but the only choice here is the Otis Taylor touchdown off the hands of Len Dawson that truly put this game away. The first post-merger Super Bowl was Super Bowl V, but it took place between two old NFL teams, with the Baltimore Colts, now representing the AFC, defeating the Dallas Cowboys 16-13. This game was known as the Blunder Bowl, so any one of the 11 turnovers during this game could have been a pick. John Mackey's fluky touchdown off a deflection could be a choice, and Bob Lilly throwing his helmet at the end of the game was also memorable. But it's what made Lilly throw his helmet that is our choice: rookie kicker Jim O'Brien winning the Super Bowl on a late field goal. We now move on to Super Bowl VI. This was the first Super Bowl where one team was kept out of the end zone entirely, with the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Miami Dolphins 24-3. Dallas got 2 touchdowns in this game from future Hall of Famers who did most of their hay for other teams, Lance Allworth and Mike Ditka. But this game's most memorable play took place when Bob Lilly took Bob Greasy down for a 29-yard loss on a sack. This is still the record for the longest yardage lost on a sack in Super Bowl history. Super Bowl VII was the culmination of the Miami Dolphins' undefeated season, defeating the Washington Redskins 14-7. Safety Jake Scott was named game MVP. His end zone interception and subsequent 55-yard return was a major reason for that. Nick Buonaconti also had an important interception, and Dick Anderson had an important fumble recovery, incidentally by Jake Scott. But the most famous play of this game, perhaps one of the most famous plays in NFL history, or should we say infamous plays in NFL history, was Garo Yepremian getting his field goal blocked and then attempting to throw a pass, which he fumbled into the air, only to be returned for a touchdown by the Redskins. Had Yepremian made that field goal and nothing else changed, the Dolphins would have won this game 17-0, which would have exactly mirrored their final record. The Miami Dolphins returned in Super Bowl VIII to complete the repeat, defeating the Minnesota Vikings 24-7. The Dolphins systematically disassembled the Vikings, so finding any one play in this game was kind of tough. Nick Buonaconti made a strip on 4th down. Minnesota's John Gilliam had a 65-yard kickoff return that was called back on a penalty, but we're going to give this one to Larry Zonga's opening touchdown. This solidified Miami's dominance, and it led to a second first-quarter touchdown, allowing them to coast the rest of the way. Super Bowl IX played out in similar fashion to Super Bowl VIII. We even had the same victim, with the Pittsburgh Steelers this time defeating the Minnesota Vikings 16-6. Glenn Edwards laid on a big hit to allow Mel Blount to pick up an interception, and Pittsburgh's unintentional squib kick did them favors in this game as well. But the first ever safety was recorded in this game by Dwight White, and it actually served as the only points in the first half. We're going with Dwight White and his safety. The first 9 Super Bowls were all kind of lackluster in their own way, either being one-sided affairs or being close games that were poorly played. Super Bowl X changed all that. This matchup is between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys, with Pittsburgh coming out on top 21-17. Jack Lambert showed the Steelers mean business the way he tossed Cliff Harris to the ground. Lynn Swann made a spectacular 64-yard touchdown, and Percy Howard for the Dallas Cowboys made the one and only reception of his entire career, which just happened to be a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But this play belongs only to Lynn Swann, making an acrobatic 53-yard catch while the Steelers were backed up near their own end zone as Mark Washington covered him like a blanket. Super Bowl XI brought the Minnesota Vikings into the game for the 4th time, and for the 4th time they took the loss, this time to the Oakland Raiders by a score of 32-14. Jack Tatum and Skip Thomas made themselves a Sammy White sandwich in this game. Fred Biletnikoff, the game's MVP, made 2 deep receptions that were stopped at the 1-yard line twice, but there's only one play in this game that makes the rounds. Willie Brown, also known as Old Man Willie Brown, stepping in front of a Fran Tarkenton pass and running it back to the house for a touchdown, a play that has been immortalized by NFL films. Super Bowl XII ended the AFC's 5-year winning streak, with the Dallas Cowboys taking out the Denver Broncos 27-10. Perhaps any one of Dallas's 8 takeaways could have been the play of this game. There was also Butch Johnson's 45-yard touchdown catch that would not have counted today because he didn't survive the ground. We're going to go ahead and give this one to a Cowboy trick play, with right-handed running back Robert Newhouse running to his left, stopping and throwing a touchdown pass to Golden Richards. The first touchdown pass in Super Bowl history that didn't come off the hand of a quarterback. This channel has referred to Super Bowl XIII as the most celebrated Super Bowl of all time, and for good reason. It was a matchup from 3 years earlier between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys, and just as they did 3 seasons earlier, the Steelers won this game by 4 points, 35-31. Mike Hegman had a great strip fumble return of Terry Bradshaw, John Stallworth made an incredible 75-yard touchdown catch, and Rocky Bleier recovered an onside kick to secure the win. But this play goes more into the infamous category. Future Hall of Fame tight end Jackie Smith gets wide open in the end zone, Roger Staubach puts it right on his numbers, but Smith dropped the ball. Dallas had to settle for a field goal, and that 4-point swing represented the 4-point difference in the final score. Super Bowl 14 gave the Pittsburgh Steelers their second repeat championship in a 6-year period when they defeated the Los Angeles Rams 31-19. We had another running back throwing a touchdown here, Lawrence McCutcheon to Rod Smith for the Rams. Jack Lambert made a crucial interception in the fourth quarter, but after his 75-yard touchdown catch from the previous Super Bowl was left out, John Stallworth's 73-yard touchdown pass in this game gets the nod, as it gave the Steelers a fourth quarter lead that they never relinquished. Super Bowl 15 brought some new blood into the game, with the Philadelphia Eagles making their debut. They did so against the Oakland Raiders, but not so successfully, with the Raiders coming on top 27-10. The Eagles' Rodney Parker had a touchdown call back in this game. Raiders linebacker Rod Martin made 3 interceptions, still a Super Bowl record, and Ted Hendricks made a very important play when he blocked Philly's field goal. But Kenny King's 80-yard touchdown catch, including 61 yards after the catch, gets the nod as it put the Raiders in complete control of this game. Speaking of new blood, Super Bowl 16 gave us 2 new competitors, with the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. San Francisco jumped out to a 20-0 lead before holding on to a 26-21 victory. And what let them hold on was the most famous goal line stand, if not in Super Bowl history, then perhaps in all of NFL history. We could have chosen first down, second down, or fourth down, but we're going with third down. The Bengals chose to pass, and Ken Anderson was able to find Charles Alexander wide open in the flat. But linebacker Dan Bunz was having none of it, making an incredible tackle and forcing the Bengals into that eventual failed fourth down. Super Bowl 17 was the end of the 1982 strike-shortened season, but it gave us a great matchup between the Washington Redskins and the Miami Dolphins. Washington pulled out a 27-17 victory. Jimmy Cephalo for the Dolphins made a 76-yard touchdown reception, and Fulton Walker returned a kickoff for a touchdown that would have probably been the play of this game if Miami won. They didn't win because of the 4th-and-1 run in the fourth quarter by John Riggins. Washington trailed at that point in the game, but after the Riggins touchdown, they added one more and took home the title. Super Bowl 18 was looking like the Washington Redskin repeat coronation, but the Los Angeles Raiders had other ideas, winning this game 38-9. There were actually several memorable plays in this game. The Raiders' Derek Jensen recovered a blocked punt in the end zone for a touchdown. Jack Squirick made a pick six at the end of the first half on a very ill-advised throw by Washington. And John Riggins, having scored that famous touchdown on fourth down the season before, was stopped on a fourth down in this play. But let's not kid ourselves, the most famous and memorable play of this game was Marcus Allen taking the handoff, running left, reversing field, and picking up a 74-yard touchdown. To this day, Super Bowl 19 remains the highest combined win percentage between the two opponents, with the 15-1 San Francisco 49ers taking down the 14-2 Miami Dolphins by a score of 38-16. The Niners made a couple of big interceptions of Dan Marino late in the game. Offensive lineman Guy McIntyre thought he was a kick returner on a squib kick, but we give this to Roger Craig, the third touchdown he scored in this game, which gave us the final score of 38-16. The historical context here is that Roger Craig gave us the first ever 3-touchdown game in Super Bowl history. Super Bowl 20 did turn out to be a coronation for the 1985 Bears, marking them as the single greatest team during the Super Bowl era. They crushed the New England Patriots 46-10. Leslie Frazier made a pick six in this game. Craig James essentially got origamied by Richard Dent and the Bears defense, and Wilbur Marshall and Otis Wilson engaged in what Dick Enberg called playing playground. But, for better or worse, the most famous play of this game was the touchdown scored by rookie defensive tackle William Refrigerator Perry. Infamous because it left Walter Payton, the longest suffering Bear of them all, without his own trip to the end zone. Super Bowl 21 started off competitively with the Broncos holding a 10-9 halftime lead. It did not end that way, with the Giants eventually winning 39-20. Giants defensive lineman George Martin picked up a safety in this game, and Jeff Rutledge pulled off a nifty fake punt. But the most memorable play was a pass that was intended for Mark Bavaro. It slipped through his hands and landed in Phil McConkey's for a touchdown. Super Bowl 22 also saw the Denver Broncos holding a lead at 10-0 in the second quarter over the Washington Redskins. Washington wound up scoring 35 points in that quarter. Gary Clark's 27-yard touchdown catch, Ricky Sanders' 50-yard touchdown catch, and Timmy Smith's 58-yard touchdown run were all candidates here. But it was the first touchdown of this barrage that gets our nod. Doug Williams finding Ricky Sanders for an 80-yarder. Washington still trailed after this touchdown, but it certainly set the wheels in motion for what was to come. After 5 consecutive blowouts in the Super Bowl 23 gave us a very close game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Niners pulled it off in the end, winning 20-16. Stanford Jennings' kickoff return touchdown for Cincinnati probably would have been the play had the Bengals won. Lewis Billups had a crucial drop of an interception, and during the 49ers comeback drive, Jerry Rice made an amazing play across the middle between 3 defenders. But the only play that could have won this one was the game-winning touchdown scored with 34 seconds remaining on the clock when Joe Montana found John Taylor in the end zone. More than 35 years later, Super Bowl 24 still holds the record for most points scored by one team and largest margin of victory, as the San Francisco 49ers dismantled the Denver Broncos 55-10. So many plays to choose from here. Jerry Rice became the first person to ever catch 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. Daniel Stubbs made a great fumble recovery, and Joe Montana set the Super Bowl record with his 5th touchdown pass. But the first touchdown of the game is the most memorable, with Jerry Rice catching the ball in the middle of the field, pinballing off defenders, and getting his way into the end zone. Super Bowl 25 gave us a very close game, in fact the closest the game could ever be, with the Giants getting the 1-point victory over Buffalo 20-19. Bruce Smith had a safety earlier in the game, but Jeff Hostetler did very well to hold on to the ball and keep it a safety instead of turning it into a touchdown. Otis Anderson scored a 2-yard touchdown in the third quarter, making it 2 hours in real time since Buffalo's offense possessed the ball, and Mark Ingram made one of the greatest plays in NFL history by breaking several tackles on a 3rd and long to pick up the first down. But no matter what the result of this play was going to be, it was going to be the most memorable. And unfortunately for Buffalo, it worked against them. Forever known as wide right, Scott Norwood missed the field goal that would have given Buffalo a Super Bowl championship. Buffalo looked for redemption in Super Bowl 26, but they were up against the best team in the entire Super Bowl era, not named the 1985 Bears. They played Washington, and the Redskins won this game 37-24. Darrell Green had an important interception in this game, Ernest Biner did very well to dodge a safety, and Gary Clark caught a touchdown pass to make it a 31-10 game. But the most memorable play of this game was a bit of a meltdown by Bills wide receiver Andre Reed. In a fit of anger, while expecting a pass interference call, he took off his helmet and threw it straight into the ground, symbolizing the overall frustration Buffalo felt in this game. It didn't get any better for the Buffalo Bills as far as Super Bowls were concerned in Super Bowl 27, where they faced the Dallas Cowboys and got hammered 52-17. Dallas scored 2 different defensive touchdowns in this game, one by Jimmy Jones and one by Ken Norton. Michael Irvin scored 2 very quick touchdowns to end the first half. But despite Dallas's dominance in this game, it's a play they did not make that becomes the most memorable of this game. That would be Leon Lett and his would-be fumble recovery for a touchdown. In attempting to channel Michael Irvin, he allowed Bills wide receiver Don Beebe to race down the sideline and strip him before he officially crossed the goal line. Super Bowl 28 remains the only instance where two teams had a rematch from the season before. This time, Buffalo performed much better, taking a 13-6 lead into the half before falling apart to a 30-13 loss. Steve Christie made the Super Bowl's first ever 50-yard field goal in this game, actually hitting from 54 yards out. Nate Odoms had an important first half interception, and Emmitt Smith closed the deal with his second touchdown run of the game. But this game turned on Leon Lett redeeming himself, stripping the ball from Thurman Thomas, only to be picked up by James Washington, who ran it back in for a touchdown, tying the game at 13 and essentially putting the nail in the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl coffin. We've got another Super Bowl blowout. Super Bowl 29 saw the San Francisco 49ers match their team name by beating the San Diego Chargers 49-26. Ricky Watters caught a touchdown that was somewhat similar to Jerry Rice in Super Bowl 24 by pinballing off his defender. Mark Say had a crucial drop in the end zone while the Chargers were still somewhat in the game. And Steve Young set the new single-game Super Bowl record with his 6th touchdown pass. But this belongs to Jerry Rice, opening the scoring on just the 3rd play of the game after slicing through two Chargers defenders, flailing in their attempts to grab Superman's cape. After a 1-year hiatus, the Dallas Cowboys were back in Super Bowl 30. This time they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, their 3rd such Super Bowl matchup, and to this day, the only time two teams have played each other in the Super Bowl 3 times. Dallas got revenge for their 2 previous losses by winning this game 27-17. The Steelers pulled off a surprise onside kick in the second half. The Cowboys made a very important 4th down stop of Bam Morris, and Larry Brown had an interception, but it was Larry Brown's 2nd interception that sealed the deal here. Pittsburgh only trailed by 3 and had a chance to tie or take the lead, but Neil O'Donnell's errant pass put the game right back in Dallas's hands. Super Bowl 31 brought the Green Bay Packers back to the big game for the first time since Vince Lombardi was on the sidelines. This was also their first ever NFC championship. They defeated the New England Patriots in this game 35-21. Reggie White tossed Max Lane around like a sack of potatoes in this game. Antonio Freeman set the Super Bowl record with his 81-yard touchdown catch, and Andre Rison opening the game with a touchdown is accompanied by that famous shot of Brett Favre running across the field with his helmet in his hand. But we're going with Super Bowl 31's MVP Desmond Howard. The Patriots had just cut the lead down to 6 points when Howard received the next kickoff and proceeded to run it back for a touchdown, scoring the game's final points. The NFC had won 13 consecutive Super Bowls, but Super Bowl 32 finally gave one to the AFC. This was the Denver Broncos defeating the defending champion Green Bay Packers 31-24. Terrell Davis was the MVP of this game. His 3rd rushing touchdown was the first time anyone had rushed for 3 touchdowns in a game. His play as a decoy in the second quarter while dealing with a migraine was also well known. And of course, John Mobley knocked away Brett Favre's pass on 4th down to win the game. But by far, the most famous play of this game was the John Elway helicopter, when on 3rd down, the old man raced out for the first down, and the only way for him to get it was to dive forward, during which time he was hit by a defender and spun around. He got the first down, and Denver scored a touchdown on the drive. The Broncos were back in Super Bowl 33, where they had an easier time of things, defeating the Atlanta Falcons 34-19. Darius Johnson made a big interception for the Broncos in this game, and Morton Anderson of the Falcons, one of the greatest kickers of all time, missed a 26-yard field goal. That missed field goal led directly to our next play, which was Rod Smith's 80-yard touchdown reception. He made the reception over Eugene Robinson, who was facing issues of his own going into this game. An argument can be made that Super Bowl 34 is the most exciting Super Bowl of all time, with the St. Louis Rams holding on to defeat the Tennessee Titans 23-16. Eddie George's second touchdown was a sight to behold as he plowed through his defender. Isaac Bruce made a huge touchdown catch to break a fourth quarter tie, and Steve McNair went on a mad scramble on the game's second to last play to find Kevin Dyson for a reception. But it's the game's last play that gets the nod here. Steve McNair once again found Kevin Dyson for a reception, but Rams linebacker Mike Jones peeled off his coverage to make the game-saving tackle at the 1-yard line. Depending on your perspective, this play is either known as 1 yard short or the tackle. Super Bowl 35 was a one-sided beatdown, with the Baltimore Ravens taking out the New York Giants 34-7. Giants linebacker Jesse Armstead had a pick six called back on a penalty earlier in this game, but this game is known for 3 touchdowns being scored in quick succession. Dwayne Starks' pick six for the Ravens, Ron Dixon's kickoff return for the Giants, but our pick is the subsequent kickoff return for the Ravens by Jermaine Lewis, putting aside any thoughts that the Giants could win this game. Super Bowl 36 was meant to solidify a potential dynasty for the Rams. It instead began another one for the Patriots, as they beat the Rams in this game 20-17. Ty Law made a pick six during this game that set things off for the Patriots. Ricky Proehl made an astounding game-tying touchdown for the Rams, and Troy Brown made a play that was somewhat comparable to Jerry Rice's in Super Bowl 23 by making a catch across the middle during the game-winning drive. But in a reverse from Scott Norwood, it was Adam Vinatieri who stepped up and drilled the game-winning field goal, the first play in Super Bowl history to win the game with 0 seconds on the clock, although there probably should have been a second on the clock. Super Bowl 37 was the John Gruden Bowl. The Oakland Raiders, coached by Gruden the season before, took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, currently coached by Gruden. And the Bucs had no problem winning this one 48-21. Derek Brooks had a massive game that was punctuated by a pick six. Jerry Rice, as a 40-year-old, made a 48-yard touchdown catch, and Dwight Smith ended the game with a pick six. But that wasn't his first of the game. The one he had earlier gave the Buccaneers a commanding 34-3 lead, fending off any possibility of a Raiders comeback, even as they tried. Super Bowl 38 saw the return of the New England Patriots against the upstart Carolina Panthers. As they did 2 seasons earlier, they won by 3 points with a final score of 32-29. Mike Vrabel, a linebacker, caught a touchdown pass from Tom Brady. Muhsin Muhammad set the Super Bowl record for the longest touchdown catch in the game's history, 85 yards from Jake Delhomme, and once again Adam Vinatieri made a game-winning field goal. But the drive that preceded that game-winning field goal started with excellent field position after John Casey made perhaps the biggest unforced error in Super Bowl history by sailing his kickoff out of bounds. In Super Bowl 39, the Patriots joined the Dallas Cowboys as the only team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a 4-year period. They did so by defeating the Philadelphia Eagles 24-21. Deion Branch made a lot of catches in this game, but the one he stole away from Sheldon Brown stood out the most. Teddy Bruschi had a big fourth quarter interception, and Rodney Harrison had 2 interceptions, including a clincher in the fourth quarter. But we're going to go ahead and cheat on this one and not give this to any one play. Instead, pointing out how lackadaisical the Eagles were when they were trailing 24-14 and showed absolutely no urgency in trying to get back into this game. Please feel free to call me out in the comment section if you think I should have settled on one play for this one. Super Bowl 40 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks wasn't without controversy, with the Steelers winning the game 21-10. Any number of calls could have been the play of this game. Darrell Jackson getting a touchdown called back, Jeremy Stevens making a catch down near the end zone getting called back, and Ike Taylor's interception being followed up with a penalty on quarterback Matt Hasselbeck. But we're going to be positive for this one and give it to Willie Parker, who made a 75-yard touchdown run in the second half, aided by a tremendous block by lineman Alan Faneca. Super Bowl 41 was played in rainy conditions in Miami between the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. The Colts got the victory in this one 29-17. Devin Hester opened the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown, the only such instance in Super Bowl history. Reggie Wayne got completely loose from the Bears secondary for a touchdown, and as the Colts were putting the game away, Dominique Rhodes took 8 consecutive handoffs. But with the Colts only holding on to a 5-point lead, cornerback Kelvin Hayden made an interception that he returned for a touchdown, ending Chicago's comeback hopes. One of the most famous games, if not the most famous games in NFL history, is Super Bowl 42, with the New York Giants pulling off the shocking upset of the then undefeated New England Patriots 17-14. Randy Moss scored a touchdown to put the Patriots in the lead, Plaxico Burress then scored a touchdown to put the Giants back in the lead, and Jay Alford famously blew up Tom Brady on the would-be comeback drive. But let's not kid ourselves. The most memorable, the most famous, the most infamous, whatever you want to call it, play in this game was when Eli Manning escaped the pocket on a play that was almost called dead and found David Tyree for what is forever known as the helmet catch. Much like Super Bowl 34, its inverse number, Super Bowl 43, has a case for the most exciting Super Bowl of all time. The Pittsburgh Steelers were able to defeat the Arizona Cardinals 27-23. There are really only 2 plays in contention for this one. Ben Roethlisberger's perfect pass into the end zone, followed by Santonio Holmes' toe-tap touchdown to win the game for the Steelers, or James Harrison's amazing 100-yard pick six to end the first half. We're going with Harrison, as we believe this is the single greatest play in Super Bowl history. And had he landed down at the 1-yard line, except for what points they prevented Arizona from scoring, the play would have gone down for naught. Super Bowl 44 saw the return of the Indianapolis Colts, where they were favored to defeat the New Orleans Saints. It didn't work out that way, with the Saints winning this game 31-17. The Saints stopped the Colts on a 4th down in the 4th quarter to clinch the game. Pierre Thomas gave the Saints a lead with a touchdown, and Tracy Porter essentially put the game away with a pick six. But in a play that can never happen again under current NFL rules, the Saints opened the second half with a surprise onside kick by Thomas Morstead. It was recovered by Chris Reese, and the Saints were able to take control of the game, eventually winning their first and to date only Super Bowl. Super Bowl 45 was played in Jerry World between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. That couldn't have been easy for poor old Jerry. The Packers won this game 31-25. Greg Jennings made a nice touchdown catch to give the Packers a 21-3 lead, and then Mike Wallace made a great touchdown catch for the Steelers to make it a 1-score game. The Packers defense made a stop on 4th down to clinch the game, but it's a different play by the Packers defense that's going down as this game's most memorable, with Nick Collins catching a hot air balloon pass from Ben Roethlisberger and running it back in for a touchdown to give the Packers a 14-0 first quarter lead. Super Bowl 46 once again saw a matchup between the heavily favored New England Patriots and the New York Giants, and for the second time, the Giants pulled off the upset, winning this game 21-17. Ahmad Bradshaw scored a late touchdown in which he looked like he was trying to stop himself from scoring in order to burn more clock. Tom Brady's Hail Mary pass at the end had a chance to be caught before ultimately falling short, but it's a play on the drive that preceded Bradshaw's touchdown that gets the nod here. In fact, the first play of the drive, where Eli Manning easily made the greatest throw of his career, dropping a ball in a bucket between 2 defenders to Mario Manningham, who also managed to keep his feet in bounds. Super Bowl 47 was initially known as the Har Bowl, but maybe came to be known as the Blackout Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens took the lead in this game and never gave it up, holding on to a 34-31 victory. Jacoby Jones was a star in this game. He made a touchdown catch late in the first half, and he also had a kickoff return early in the second half. Ed Reed's first half interception was also memorable, but this game came down to the 49ers trailing by 5 points, facing a 4th and goal. Donnell Ellerbe got through on a blitz, forcing a quick pass, and the ensuing matchup between Michael Crabtree and Jimmy Smith saw the ball fall incomplete without a penalty flag thrown. Let me say this, as a 49er fan, that was the correct call. Both guys were fighting for the ball. Nobody was able to catch it. Pass incomplete. It was offense versus defense in Super Bowl 48, and defense won the day in a big way, with the Seattle Seahawks defeating the Denver Broncos 43-8. The game's first play saw a safety scored by the Broncos. Percy Harvin electrified with a kickoff return for a touchdown, and Malcolm Smith followed up his NFC Championship game interception with an interception in this game as well that he ran back for a touchdown. But the play that truly set the tone was in the first quarter, with the Seattle Seahawks only leading 5-0. Demaryius Thomas catches a short pass. Cam Chancellor knocks him to the ground with as clean a hit as you'll ever find. This play let it be known that the Seahawks were here to win. Seattle attempted to repeat in Super Bowl 49, but their effort fell short against the New England Patriots by a score of 28-24. Julian Edelman caught the touchdown pass that gave the Patriots that lead. On the Seahawks' comeback attempt, Jermaine Kearse made a circus catch to give Seattle the ball inside the 5-yard line. But the most famous play of this game was when the Seahawks ignored Marshawn Lynch, ignored Russell Wilson's legs, and instead had him throw a ball into a crowded area that was subsequently intercepted by Malcolm Butler. The Golden Super Bowl is next. Super Bowl 50 between the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, dominant all season, took it on the chin in this one, losing 24-10. Malik Jackson scored a touchdown early in the game after a Von Miller strip sack. Jordan Norwood electrified with a 61-yard punt return. But the most infamous play of this game was when Carolina had the ball, only trailing 16-10, only for Cam Newton to lose a fumble and then seemingly being unwilling to jump on it. Super Bowl 51 goes into the record books as the biggest come-from-behind victory in Super Bowl history, with the New England Patriots trailing 28-3 before pulling out a 34-28 overtime victory. Near the end of the first half, Robert Alford snuffed out a Patriots drive with an interception that he then took to the house for a touchdown. Julian Edelman made a crazy catch, scooping the ball up right before it hit the ground. And of course, James White scored the game-winning touchdown in overtime. But the biggest play of this game took place with the Falcons leading 28-12, snapping the ball with plenty of time left on the clock and sending quarterback Matt Ryan on a 7-step drop on 3rd and 1. Atlanta did not want to win this game. Dante Hightower broke through, got the strip sack, gave the Patriots the ball in excellent field position, and gave them life. The Patriots' attempt at a repeat in Super Bowl 52 was stopped by the Philadelphia Eagles, who defeated them by the score of 41-33. The Patriots tried a trick play in the first half, which required Tom Brady to catch a pass. He failed to do so. Zach Ertz scored the go-ahead touchdown with the Patriots leading by 1 point, and Brandon Graham had a huge strip sack of Tom Brady. But there's only one play that can be called the most memorable in this game. It even has its own name, the Philly Special. Going forward on 4th and goal with a 3-point lead in the first half, the direct snap went to Corey Clement, who then handed it off on a reverse to tight end Trey Burton, who then found quarterback Nick Foles in the end zone for the touchdown. 1 year after the second highest scoring game in Super Bowl history, we got the single lowest scoring game in Super Bowl history. Remarkable considering all the rules that have been changed to benefit offense. The New England Patriots defeated the Los Angeles Rams 13-3. Johnny Hecker had a 65-yard punt in this game. That was kind of cool. Sony Michel scored the game's only touchdown, and with the score 13-3, Greg Zwerline missed a field goal that would have given the Rams a tiny chance. The play of this game was made by Patriot corner Stephon Gilmore. With the Rams finally threatening to get into the end zone, Gilmore made a leaping interception inside the 5-yard line to end their only threat. Super Bowl 54 saw the return of the Kansas City Chiefs after a 50-year absence to take on the San Francisco 49ers. It was the Chiefs who stood triumphant in the end, winning 31-20. George Kittle had a 42-yard catch late in the first half get called back on a penalty. Damian Williams scored the clinching touchdown, and Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew Emmanuel Sanders when the Niners had a good chance to get back in this game. But the play of this game took place on a 3rd and long when Patrick Mahomes uncorked a deep pass to Tyreek Hill, keeping the Chiefs in this game. This is the Super Bowl where 49er fans have a gripe about a no holding call, as Eric Fisher sure did get his hooks into Nick Bosa. Super Bowl 55 is the most ignominious Super Bowl ever played because of the conditions surrounding the 2020 season. That said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers handled their business, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. Rob Gronkowski made a great catch in the back of the end zone on a great throw by Tom Brady. Leonard Fournette tore off a nice touchdown run, but the defining play of this Super Bowl was nothing that Tampa Bay did. It was when the game was already decided. It was 31-9 in the fourth quarter. As he had done the whole game, Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, running from sideline to sideline, being pursued by Buck defenders, getting sent vertical, releasing the ball perfectly to Darrell Williams, only to see him drop the ball. Even Buccaneer players were marveling at Patrick Mahomes' wizardry. Super Bowl 56 was a spirited affair between two teams that weren't all that Super Bowl-ish, I guess. The Los Angeles Rams defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. T. Higgins opened the second half with a long touchdown reception, and Aaron Donald forced Joe Burrow into an incompletion on what was Cincinnati's last play of the game. But it's the game-winning touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp that gets the nod here. Super Bowl 40 was well known for being a bit controversial. So too was Super Bowl 57. In this game, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35. Nick Bolton scooped up a Jalen Hurts fumble and ran it back in for a touchdown. Kadarius Toney almost gave us the first ever punt return touchdown in Super Bowl history. And Jalen Hurts scored on a 2-point conversion, which gave him the record for the most points scored by a single player in one Super Bowl and also tied the game. But the most memorable play of this game was a penalty. After an incomplete pass on 3rd down that would have forced a field goal attempt with more time on the clock, a contentious penalty flag was dropped on Eagles corner James Bradbury for holding. This allowed the Chiefs to keep the ball and drain more clock before kicking the game-winning field goal. The Chiefs returned for Super Bowl 58, and so too did their opponents from 4 seasons earlier, the San Francisco 49ers. This game went down to beyond the wire, with the Chiefs winning it in overtime, 25-22. Leo Chenal blocked an extra point that could have potentially given the 49ers a win in regulation. Patrick Mahomes converted a massive 4th down with his legs while facing a deficit in overtime. Then, while not an actual play, there was the overtime coin toss, where Kyle Shanahan was faced with a decision that no one had ever faced before, whether or not to take the ball first when the rules had now changed to guarantee both teams a possession. He did take the ball, the Niners settled for a field goal, then Kansas City marched down the field, culminating their drive with a touchdown pass from Mahomes to the newly reacquired Mecole Hardman to win the Super Bowl and give Kansas City the first repeat title winner in 19 years. A repeat wasn't enough for the Chiefs, and they became the first back-to-back Super Bowl champions to make it back to the Super Bowl. doing so in Super Bowl 59, where they were looking to bookend that three-peat with a victory over their first victims, the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, that didn't happen, with the Eagles scoring a dominant 40-22 victory that wasn't as close as the final score would indicate. Jalen Hurts hit Devontae Smith with a deep touchdown after a failed fourth down by the Chiefs. Milton Williams had a strip sack of Patrick Mahomes deep in Chiefs territory, and DeAndre Hopkins had a crucial drop where he literally tripped over himself that could have given the Chiefs a small pathway back into the game. But it's the birthday boy himself, Cooper DeJean, who gets the call here. The Chiefs had trailed by 10 points in all of their recent Super Bowl victories, and they trailed by 10 at this point in the game. Sacks on first and second down set up this third down, where DeJean cut in front of a pass and returned it all the way for a touchdown, signifying to everyone watching that a Kansas City comeback was not in the cards today. Thank you so much for going on this journey with us through all 59 Super Bowls. Please like and share this video. Also, share the channel while subscribing to it, and don't forget to ding that bell to be notified about all our future videos. Share your thoughts about any or all of these selections down in the comments. I'd definitely be interested in hearing about what you think should be the defining play of any one Super Bowl. As mentioned throughout the video, some of these are probably pretty obvious, but some truly are up for debate. Let me know about this or anything else you may have on your mind. Thank you once again, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.